Hello, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the energies. I would say for today's Monday's Musings, but I'm actually filming this on Sunday, the 4th of February. There's many reasons that I'm doing that. One of them being the 5th of February is the anniversary of my mother's passing. So I will be at the cemetery. There's also a few things I want to bring in to help make space for some new ideas work-wise as well. So tomorrow, or whenever you guys are watching this, I will be busy doing other things. Which is the beauty of feeling into the energies this week. There is a great potential. What is that potential? Well, whatever we want to make of it, basically. I was looking at the notes that I've taken for the blog for February, which I've yet to write for the new moon. And it's quite electrifying. There's a lot potentially going on with Uranus and with Aquarius and all these different planets and all these different things. But what really matters is what we're going to do with that. So this week I have a really busy week. I have a lot going on online. I have the Moon IKEA at the weekend. I have a lot of appointments work-wise, but also for myself. And I felt into that today and just really felt this sense of not being able to fit it all in, not being able to stretch myself, being concerned that I would spread myself too thin. And this narrative of that, this bullshit story that I'd given myself, you know, basically we can do whatever it is we feel like we need to do in that moment, but also expanding our wisdom this week and our view on what we're capable of as we lead into the new moon with Aquarius is really key. How? By doing what we feel we need to do in each moment. So I want to do the video to look into the energies for the week. I also want to go to the cinema, and with my son this week I also want to go to the cemetery. There's a lot of things I want to do, and rather than feel as if I'm torn and I have to decide, which feels like an emphasis this week, recognizing that provided good time management is there and we hold ourselves accountable and put those steps in place, there's a potential that we could actually achieve it all. That we could actually fulfill everything that we're trying to do this week if we come at it from a place of what we actually want. So a little sneak peek. I don't know much about the blog that I'm going to write for Friday, but I do know that the theme tune is a toss-up between Grease, the song of You're the One That I Want, probably not going to be that one because Sandy has to dress up to be someone else, right? Or the Spice Girls and the Wannabe theme tune, and that's at the moment, so that could just be the energy for this video, or it could end up going into the blog. But what matters is there's an energy building here of what do we want? Do we want to be who we are? Do we want to be where we are? Do we want to be with who we are? Do we want to be continuing to doing what we do? Do we want to be this version of ourselves that we see anymore, or have we outgrown it? One of the things I did notice when I was coming upstairs was I leaned over to get my diary and the pens and nearly picked up my tuning fork, my 528 tuning fork. Now the 528 vibration in particular is one that's used for transformation on a deep cellular level, and I thought this week was very much about adaptation and being able to do what we can to the best of our ability in each moment. And I got a very stern, very clear clarification that actually it's about evolution and transformation in regards to what we think and feel. There's something going on with thinking and feeling and them coming together. Feel or think. There's something coming together with what we think and what we feel, and when they merge as one element, almost like another element coming in, when they merge as one element, our capability is being expanded upon and with this week. So what is going on there? Well, yes, it's linked to the new moon. But even that this morning, when I wanted to look at the energies of the new moon, I fell into this trap of what is Aquarius? What is Aquarius? And there's so many articles out there explaining what Aquarius is. And I found it quite ironic because Aquarius for me is very expansive and beyond labels, beyond fitting inside a box, and yet here we were in all of these articles all over the internet or whatever, and myself included, almost adding to this stereotypical view of what Aquarius is. Aquarius, the planet that is known for having no stereotypical view, was also being stereotyped, and this week that does feel like there's a bit of a potential there to long and yearn to want to put things into a neat, tidy box, much like this reading. And actually what feels important is we do what we can when we can in each moment and allow things to unfold, recognizing that I know this video will get out to people as and whenever they need to watch it, but also recognizing that each step this week, we need to stand back and look at the reading for the whole week. We need to stand back and see the bigger picture of what is actually occurring. You know, I know a lot of people that do tarot card readings one card at a time. For me personally, there seems to be more advantage if you get all the cards out on the table this week, laying everything out on the table. This is where I'm at. This is what's going on for me. I'm really looking at it from almost a bird's eye view. I see like a telescope from like a bird's eye view, standing back, recognizing that by standing back and observing what is going on, we can see the finer details that we couldn't have if we were smack bam in the middle of it. That isn't going to be easy. It does feel as if there's going to be some situations, some scenarios, some emotions, not just from the past, but new, short, sharp, almost lightning bolt occurrences that are going to bring up aspects of the past so that we can feel into what needs to shift there. An example, a loved one of mine is going for an appointment on the same day my mother passed to look at areas concerning their health the same as what my mother passed with. So that little knee-jerk reaction of bringing up all those energies, all those emotions for me, yes, I can see what that's doing. It's triggering that regurgitation to come out, to really let go of that before anything new can be put into place here, to recognize that we are all on our own journey. There may be similarities, particularly ancestrally this week, particularly within a larger tribe and community. We may see similarities, but we are all here on our own journey. And to honour that and to allow space for that for ourselves as well. You know, we can look at patterns that we do that are very similar to our loved ones. We can look at things that we have experienced that other people may have experienced, and we can almost lose sight of our own identity here, and that feels really, really important. There's a reason I am and ahhing about the Grease song where Sandy does actually dress up. Yes, it's still Sandy, but she's dressed herself up in order to say, you are the one that I want. And then on the other hand, the Spice Girls, you know, the wannabe, this is who we are, this is our energy, and if you want to be with us, then you need to step into your own energy. That feels very, very, I don't want to say poignant, I almost want to find another word, astringent. It can be quite sharp, it can be quite reactive this week. It can be the lightning bolt that gives us the clarity. So by being who we are, it may cause a few reactions around us where people may be comfortable, uncomfortable, or actually think that's what I want, that's what I'm looking for. We may feel that in others as well, but remember, all triggers, glimmers are that. They are a reflection of where you're at. And also taking on board, I've noticed a thing over the last few weeks, how easily collectively we can say, that's a reflection of where I am, if it's something more negative or something that needs to be worked on. But this week, really looking out for those glimmers, looking out for those light bulb moments that we may see in other people or situations. You know, the I want to say the good stuff, and it does feel quite relevant to have that good stuff, to see something that makes us go, wow, that's incredible, but to take that deeper too and say, I'm seeing that because I can relate to that. I can relate to that because that's within me too. And actually, that's where I feel my throat almost closing over, like a non-acceptance of truth, our own beauty this week is going to really come to light in the areas around us where we may not have been doing that, where we may not be able to receive compliments, to receive the acknowledgement of the beauty of where we are. And that's going to come to the surface this week. So what else is going on? Well, I'm very aware that I have an appointment with my feet on the new moon, and that does feel relevant that there are some new paths coming, not just for myself, but collectively as well. A new way of walking a familiar path, a new way that can only come if we recognise the gifts we bring to that path as well. Particularly when it comes to ceremony and traditions, we can get very caught up in doing, or professions, very caught up in doing things the way they've always been done. This week we're being encouraged, invited, implored to bring what we have experienced to the table as well, in order for something to be different, in order for something to be new, because only then can we really recognize our own value. Okay, so let's have a look at the energies this week. That feels like the best thing to do. I want to draw, just show you Six of Swords. Yeah, I want to just show you a beautiful piece of petrified wood that my bonus daughter gave me the other day. And when I first picked this up, I didn't really feel much. I didn't feel like I was connecting to the energy very well. In a reading that I was doing for somebody and a stone healing I was doing for somebody, I didn't really feel like I connected to it until I picked it up, until I actually held on to what was in front of me. And that feels quite poignant, to really be where we are and to embody what is going on for us. And once I did that with this petrified wood, which is a really, really old energy, my own native indigenous to myself soul started to come through. And this week, in order to move forward, it is really about connecting to that wisdom within us. It is really about connecting to the experiences that have been part of our journey. Okay, so in the Six of Swords, yeah, this mindset, there is different mindsets that are needed, but in order to gain a different mindset, we must use the ones that have got us this far to move us forward, from all different angles, to see all different angles of ourselves and all perspectives of our own journey. This week feels like key to give us that harmony. So the reason I share this stone is the moment I actually connected to this flow within me, to the emotions within me, to the intuitive wisdom within me, which again feels like key as we go into the new moon with Aquarius, really balancing out intuition and logic and recognizing they can and are and always have been one of the same. The reason we separate things into polarity is so we can understand it, but it is that journey about bringing all aspects back together which is truly beneficial. That's where that third path, that third state of wisdom comes from. So the other day when I connected to this stone, so much came through, so much was starting to flow through when I connected to my own ability to do what I'm here to do. And again, that feels like key this week as we move into the new moon with Aquarius. Yes, of course, there's a lot of humanitarian emphasis there. Yes, of course, there's a lot of collective tribe emphasis there, because this is Aquarius. But even taking it further and seeing Aquarius, I'm being drawn to the Fool card, which is Aquarius as well, seeing Aquarius beyond our expectations as well, really expanding that out, knowing that we are part of the collective too, and really connecting to our own wisdom is what's going to shift and change our position within that tribe. There are some people that have perhaps done other things within a community that may very well be called forward by the end of this week actually to do more. And that's interesting. That made my right eye really, really click off. So yes, I am being drawn to the Fool card there to actually, when I was taking some notes for February's energy, it feels like a very multifaceted month where there's going to be guided steps. It may not feel like it. It may feel erratic. It may feel a bit eccentric, much like this reading when it's coming through. But if we can be comfortable in ourselves, in our body, in our own vessel, and allow what needs to come through, there are going to be guiding steps that are going to take us through. Not mind maps, like turnstiles in our journey, signposts. Yes, thank you, signposts, signs that we are going to see that are going to direct us. And it may feel as if we're kind of going off in different angles, but provided we are true to ourselves, we will always be on the road we are supposed to be on. So the reason I'm not going to use the Grease song in the blog is right at the end they fly off into a car. You know, they get in the car and it flies off into the sky, and it's very ungrounded, and it's almost indicative still of the chariot year from last year. And actually we have moved on from that. We are being invited and called to move forward from last year's energy. There are still some things to be put into place. There are still some endings that need celebrating. I'm not a big fan of saying things that we have to let go, or we have to release, or we have to move on from. I am a big fan of celebrating endings, celebrating our journey and bringing them back and reintegrating them into ourselves in order to then move forward as we are as a whole energy. And that really feels like key as part of the transition that is available this week. It does feel like there's a radical transformation available this week. However, it's only as radical as we're not. That's interesting, because one of the most rebellious things you can do, I think is a quote somewhere, one of the most rebellious things you can do is to be yourself. So if you are being yourself as much as you can be, obviously it's an ongoing living breathing experience that is continually changing, but right at the core, if you are being yourself right at the core, then the transformation is almost less radical, less of a big change, because it wasn't anything that you didn't already feel that you needed anyway. So it all depends on where you're at this week in regards to what is needed to be celebrated and reintegrated. Celebrated and reintegrated this week. And again, a lot of that is in perspective, and that will come down to the individual. So I have been very aware of the information available for February, in particular for this week. And there's a lot of, February is a interesting month, and there can be a lot of doom and gloom around there, and it's not to say that it's not there, it's not to say that it isn't real, but really ensuring that everything you see, everything you connect to, everything you read, everything you do this week is hopefully bringing you back to yourself continually. We all stray, we all go, oh, what's that? Actually, that wasn't for me. That's part of living life, that's part of the learning experience. But ensuring that you keep returning back to yourself this week is what's going to help you to move forward. Okay, so recognizing that the whole journey is about being yourself. So the more you do it, the more further down the journey you get. I've just pushed a card in that I actually wanted to see, but what I see is a clocking in and clocking out card. So it felt like it needed to go back into the pack. Interesting. And that comes back to that energy again, where you may feel yourself returning back to communities from a different perspective, from a different, almost as if there's people that have been out there and learnt a lot and are being asked or guided, encouraged to come back to their own community to provide what it is they have discovered. And I can relate to that. I can really relate to that myself. I'm really hoping to move back into the city, to bring back some of the things I've discovered to my own roots and my own community. Because that's how, when we come back to an area and we come back grown, evolved, whatever way you want to look at it, it's not until we see ourselves through the eyes of those that have always known us that we really truly remember who we are and how far we've come and how much we may have changed. And you know, when we can recognize where we are and how much has changed, that radical transformation may not be as intense as we think we need. And that again feels quite pivotal. Yeah, the Hierophant at the bottom of the pack. That again feels quite pivotal, you know, to recognise the lessons we have experienced, and rather than restudy them all over again, perhaps just take the test this week. And that may be what happens. We find ourselves being tested this week. And, you know, depending on where we are and where we perceive ourselves to be, my phone going off, where we perceive ourselves to be, will depend on whether or not we feel we need the lesson all over again, or whether we can just take the test, or whether we're ready to actually share that wisdom with other people. Okay, so energy this week. It has to be right for you. I'm doing this video early at a time that is right for me, and it has to be right for you, and recognizing that that's a really important part of creativity. I see a lot of people, whether it's spiritual healing, whether it's writing, whether it's painting or whatever, that almost get taken over by the process. But recognizing this week that actually, in order to expand, it has to be right for all involved, yourself included. Okay. I feel a sigh of relief with that. I feel real calm energy with that. Almost like permission to go, okay, I'm ready then. Actually, I am ready. As long as I can say, you know, that this is what I need. And yeah, you know, be an agent for myself, but also have that support and that encouragement, then I'm ready. Okay. It almost takes some of the heaviness off of what could be quite a potentially burdening responsibility type week. Energies this week, yeah. So shuffling the cards there, I felt like I could continue to shuffle and shuffle and shuffle and get the answers that I needed, which was beautiful, and I could feel the energies expanding and expanding, but it feels quite important to bring it back to relevance of where we are in each moment. And at the bottom of the pack, in confirmation of that, is Temperance. Okay, so it is a wonderful opportunity to look at where we are and what we want to take forward by chopping wood, carrying water, applying it to life. What do I need in this moment? Yes, okay, in the background, you know, we have the daffodils coming up here, and the iris is coming up here, and in the background we also have the crown. You know, yeah, it's always an ongoing journey of growth or whatever, but where are we right now? Stopping, pausing, looking at what is occurring around us. This morning when I woke up, went outside and I said to my husband, it feels really strange. It feels like spring, but it also feels like winter. And I felt a little bit of confusion, almost like trying to force myself into a season that wasn't quite right. And I couldn't quite make out where I was. And then we went for a drive and I saw daffodils. And you know, what really felt important was to know where I am, but also to adapt to the environment. And the environment is saying that spring is coming. Okay, so yes, this week is saying that it's busy. Yes, February is quite a hectic month. So adapting to that. And it doesn't feel as if there's much of a chance to get, not at the beginning of the month anyway, much of a chance to get into a gentle swing of things. It feels like it's just one after the other. Okay, this is ended, this is beginning, falling into place. But come the end of the month, it does feel as if we can almost go, oh, okay, seeds planted, garden tended to, everything's getting ready, let's pause, let's breathe before we move on to the next part. So it almost feels like reminiscent of a menopausal woman. The stages are all still there, but they're all in one go. So yes, be aware of any kundalini hot flushes this week in particular, and use the intense energy to transform whatever is putting you in a box, putting the situation in a box, putting our own perceptions, ideas, judgments, whatever in a box. Use them to take stock. Okay, where am I actually at? If I want to do X, Y, and Z, do I believe I'm capable of that? If I want this relationship to be wherever it is, do I actually believe that it has that capability? Really taking this moment to align the water and the thoughts, really to align them. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, 2 for Wednesday, a really itchy head then, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, gosh, yes, not surprised at all. Right, so I want to just say on the Wednesday, really itchy head, and I felt really quite confused. And on the Wednesday, we have the Six of Swords and the Death card. And when I look at that, I recognise that the Six of Swords has already come up in the reading, so it's familiar to me. And that gives me some confusion when I look at it. I think, how are we going to move forward from that then? What is that trying to say to me? And on the Wednesday, we may have that, what is this about type energy. And the reason I move forward to the Wednesday, I keep itching my nose. The reason I move forward to the Wednesday is because throughout the week, it feels like, you know, Wednesday is a hump day. Throughout the week, it feels like the main hurdle that we are encouraged or invited to walk over on the Wednesday is the need to understand it all in one go. So, you know, Aquarius is also being uncomfortable in the unknown, the need to understand it all in one go, but more importantly, to feel into the sensation of familiarity. I recognise this, so I recognise this card, and that card has come up before. I recognise the itching of the nose. You know, that's really to link to the root chakra, but I recognise this sensation within me, and it's that that's going to help me move forward. I may not have all the answers Wednesday in particular, but also this week, but there is change afoot. And I say that because the card overall for this week is the Tower card, and that really is that Uranus light bulb, you know, lightning moment. That is that the only reason I was going to even consider the theme tune from Greece is the words "it's electrifying," and that is February, but in particular as we lead up to the new moon. And my wrist felt really weak then, and there's a saying, isn't there, weak wrists. We do have the strength for this, but it is just letting all those things that are no longer relevant just fall to the wayside. Now, do we have the strength to let go? We have the strength to hold on. We have the strength to keep fighting. Do we have the strength to trust in the, dare I say it, divine plan, our own creator, whatever you want to believe that is? Do we have the strength to just let go of what is no longer required this week? It is electrifying. You know, the song, I have chills. Interesting, I said the sign. But yes, we will feel, you know, people get goosebumps or they think, oh, I really felt that. What did you feel? Much like that Six of Chords, interesting, Six of Swords. What I felt there was familiarity. So really feeling in, there may be, I'm not a big fan of cutting off cords and things like that, you know, separating or whatever is occurring. There's a big separation theme there, but you may feel that there is attachments to situations or scenarios or people that are no longer serving you. If they're no longer serving you, they will be cut, they will be released. So having faith and trusting in that and doing what you need in order to provide a safe enough environment for that to be this week is really going to be key. The changes are afoot, things are happening, things are shifting, things are changing. And just by recognizing things that are familiar and how we then choose to react to them, that's how we change the situation. So of course most people will see the death card and think, oh my goodness, or what does that mean? And yes, it can mean that. It can absolutely mean endings, and that is on the Wednesday, so the 7th, on the 7th of February. Yes, of course there is an ending type energy there. There is a transition energy there that is inviting, longing us to remember the familiarity of what it feels like to truly let go, of what it feels like to say this situation is now done, because that comes in before the new moon. So in order for anything to be new, we must recognize what that actually involves. I don't want to go on about Wednesday too much, but it does really feel like a pivotal moment. The death card here, it doesn't matter who we are. It doesn't matter who we are in the face of change or endings. We can be a rich religious person, we can be a child, we can be a pauper. It really, really doesn't matter. Endings are endings, and when they come, they come. Really feeling into that and having faith in that on the Wednesday, because we do have the 2 cards on the Wednesday. It's the only day we have the 2 cards, and the other card is the 6 of Swords, and it is the one that actually appeared at the beginning of the reading. So it is about having that calm, peace, tranquility with knowing that whatever happens on the Wednesday is all about moving us forward, and to have harmony with that, to restore harmony even. Okay, so let's break it down. I feel like I've embodied the power card. Gosh, I'm really the Tower card. I feel like I've embodied the Tower card. Let's break it down. Let's see what's working here and what isn't working here. And that feels like key this week, to have a wonderful opportunity to look at, this isn't going to continue helping. This isn't a solid foundation. What is working here? What isn't working here? On the Monday, I'm not surprised to see the Justice card. Okay, so again, that is that standing back, observing what is going on, finding that balance within yourself, that authentic self here, finding that alignment to your own energy. Anything that no longer serves that is going to fall by the wayside, but standing in that as much as you can, as strong and as true as you can, is going to give you the balance and the justice. I do also feel the sensation of it just is here. Okay, if we can step back, and that I know is really hard, that I can relate is incredibly frustrating and heartbreaking, and it's not a good enough explanation. It really isn't a good enough explanation for some of the things that are occurring in the world, but there will never be a good enough explanation. And on the Monday, it feels like if we can let go of the desire of trying to explain things, if we can let go of the reason or our need for the reason, there's always a logic behind a situation, and it's normally an intuitive, universal, almost far bigger picture than we could ever realize logic behind it. There's a science, there's an art to life. However, if we're trying to find a logical explanation for something, we can really hone that in, we can really box that in, and we will only get what we're willing to open ourselves up to on the Monday. So what feels really, really important here is to let go of the need for an explanation, to embrace the feelings that may come with that. Tomorrow, as I say, is the passing of my mother, and for myself, I found it sometimes easier to cope with the fact that actually it happened because of this and it happened because of that, and actually this is the life and I will continue, blah blah, and making that bigger story. And it's not to say that they're not true, but if I step right back and witness what is going on, there's part of me that there is no explanation, that it was unjust and it was unfair, and that's how I feel. And on the Monday, that feels quite important, that we acknowledge and recognise our feelings for what they are, that we stand and hold space and we witness them for the pendulum, for the balance that they can bring. Not logically explaining our emotions all the time. There needs to be a fine line here, a fine double-edged sword here. There needs to be those scales of balance. What do we need in order to keep our heart light? Sometimes over-explaining things doesn't keep our heart light. Sometimes being really, really caught in the emotions doesn't keep our heart light. So what firm foundation is going to help us to navigate this week, but also navigate anything that feels unjust and unfair? Returning to ourselves, returning to our higher self, returning to that energy within us, that adult self, that more mature version of us that can step back and truly look at what is going on, not just from our eyes but from the collective eyes as well. And that's the energy of Aquarius, the ability to see what is going on in front of them, but also the more expanded vision around it as well, the more, dare I say it, seer version of the psychic energy that is available. And there is psychic energy available. On the Tuesday in particular, we will start to get insights of this as we lead into Pisces season. But we have the Page of Cups on the Tuesday, and again it's recognizing we will only ever see our own capabilities and our own magic and our own abilities in how we see ourselves. So here, this character is absolutely besotted by the small fish in the cup, trying to keep it in the cup, trying to measure it, trying to weigh it out, trying to control, dare I say, this almost Christ consciousness here. The fish belongs in the sea. There are some things we cannot understand logically. You know, on the Tuesday, we're being encouraged to embrace a more intuitive insight into what is actually going on in order to see the beauty and the innocence of things, in order to recognize we are all here on our own path. On the Wednesday, that's when I come back to the Six of Swords and the Death card, and I do believe that's what I was talking about at the same time at the beginning of the reading. So being very aware of some of the communications that you have this week and how they can actually come back round as another opportunity to move you forward, how they can actually come back round as another opportunity to see perhaps where you're not moving forward. And where you may need to embody that death archetype there, where you may need to say, actually, do you know what? Yes, this view of my own spirituality is great, but it's not serving me, or this view of money, or this childlike innocence, or whatever. This isn't serving me to move forward here. Now, I was going to say, or it may be the other way, and actually on the Thursday what we have is the Five of Swords, and that's where we're going to start to see the areas where we may be fooling ourselves, where we may not want to see the clear-cut answer, where we may be undecided with what it is we actually want. So the reason I'm going to share the Spice Girls song is that that emphasis of what do you really want? Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And that is the emphasis behind the new moon with the Aquarius. Yes, I know it's a collective moon, but we cannot understand our place within the humanitarian view if we do not understand who we are, what we need and what we want, because they're all part and parcel. We continually go on about there are no others, or we continually go on about we are all one, and yet if we do not acknowledge what we want and who we are, how can we acknowledge what it is we are here to do? And that feels really, really pivotal on the Thursday. On the Thursday there feels like there's some mental energy here of backwards, forwards, and actually coming to a point where I'm going to say the truth hurts. Coming to a point where on the Thursday the truth hurts. Something, if it hasn't been serving us and we have cut through it and there are reactions to that, we may not like it, people around us may not like it, and there may be some mental conflict there. Remembering what we are seeing outside of us is a reflection of what is going on internally. So if there are people outside of us that maybe don't like how we have reacted, what is it they don't like? Because underneath it all, chances are you're not that keen on it about yourself either. I had an example the weekend before last. I was talking about a dream home that I'd love and how I used to draw it, and someone had said to me, oh, did it have stick insects? Because it was very imaginative and it was very childlike, and yes, of course, at first that made me feel really uncomfortable, but actually it was true. I too also believe this was just a pipe dream. So this week it depends on how we want to choose to look at things. We can see the external circumstances as people behaving in a certain way, or we can say, what about that do I not like within me? And that really feels like key on the Thursday if we're going to start to move through this conflict now, mentally in particular. On the Friday, provided we can do that, we have another page. So we have two page energies here, two beginning energies, and it's the Page of Wands. So with the new moon on the Friday in Aquarius, we have a potential new beginning that is led by spirit, that is very grounded here, that is that spark, it's an initiation. That's what it feels like, an initiation into rediscovering our path, into rediscovering the way forward, into rediscovering the legacy that, yes, we are going to leave for other people, but the growth that is trying to occur as a result within us. Again, acknowledging that if we want to really help things move forward, what do we need in order to do that? We must acknowledge what we need in order to do that. On the Saturday, that's where the judgments come up on ourselves and on each other. when we're being asked to be called out on this. So again, really looking at any judgments we may have, any, I can look at this reading and think, wow, there's a lot going on mentally for me that I could tie into all of this. And it's bringing up a lot of judgments for me. And it's bringing up a lot of, I'm not sure I want to see that card actually, or, I wonder what that's going to bring. And that this week is really the key point. Things are going to be brought up to be seen. They're going to be brought up to really call us out, to balance us, to help us really restore not only our masculine and our feminine, but the child within us, the innocence within us, the dreamer within us. Aquarius, yes, of course, is the dreamer. You might say, I'm a dreamer. Imagine the world. How often do we actually imagine what it is we're trying to bring in? We do vision boards. Saturday I'm doing a fire ceremony and a dispatcher, and it's beautiful, but how often do I spend time actually imagining what it is I'm trying to bring in? Honestly, not very often. Not very often. It normally takes a big ceremony or a big shock or a big change for me to really concentrate. And this week we're being asked to concentrate our energy, to look at what it is we are imagining in. Okay, so the image of the nation, what are we actually holding within us? What are we holding space for? What is being called out of us as a result? Rage, anger, pain, whatever it may be that we're being asked to feel. It's not about holding on to it, but it is about expressing it and acknowledging it so it's not hidden. A lot of the times we can manifest things. Something I've noticed I've been doing and I haven't realized since childhood is manifesting a certain situation because it's been hidden. So on the Saturday, things will be called out of us. We will feel things, we will experience things, in particular in regards to our judgments on what we want and the world around us. And that is happening so that on the Sunday we can really look at what potentially may have been hidden in and woven, entangled almost like cords into anything that we're trying to manifest. So that on the Sunday with the Four of Pentacles we can look at whether or not that brings us security now, whether or not that brings us physical balance, and whether or not it's time to actually let go of certain things. Okay, so let's break this down. We have one, two. I almost feel like I need to move all the people to one side, all the minor arcana to one side. So this week, if it gets a little bit too confusing, not concentrating on the individuals per se, but the larger picture, the major things that are occurring, the major life events that are occurring around us, but also being aware when we may concentrate on that too much and almost escape out of our own reality and focus on what is happening on the larger scale. If we do, it's that fine line with Aquarius, having an awareness of what is going on in the bigger picture, but also knowing what is going on for us as a result, and then recognizing they are one and the same. Okay, but if it all gets a bit too confusing, putting to one side, separating them to one side so that you can say that's going on for the individual person, what's going on at large, what's the bigger picture here. And what the bigger picture here is in regards to the major arcana is we have the Tower, justice, death and judgment. There are huge changes in regards to politics, in regards to the legal system, in regards to how we hold space, how we witness what is happening, in regards to balance. Yes, there is a big return here. There are some endings coming. There are some stark endings coming. And it all depends on how we manage them. We can be really relieved with some endings and we can be really devastated with other endings. But again, how then do we view endings? So we choose it to suit ourselves. On the one hand, we can say we need these endings for this. But on the other hand, oh, this is terrible. But in order for there to be change, death, justice, Tower, judgment, tarot overall, there is no view here. It isn't black and white. It is about holding space. It is about recognizing both sides of the same coin. The saying, the left wing and the right wing belong to the same bird. If we are to move forward here, it is about really recognizing that actually everything has its place. And yes, there may be fucking uncomfortable, truly uncomfortable, because it's calling out of us any judgments we have. It's calling out of us anything we need to let go of. It's calling out of us where we may not be able to hold space and witness what is occurring. It's calling out of us where we may be standing in the way of change because of that. So that's when we look at the individual, the minor arcanas, and actually there are one cup card. So the new beginning, actually comes down to the Page of Cups, and it comes down to our ability to continue to see the beauty in this world. That is a responsibility of us. That is on our hands. That is what we hold in our own hands here. The ability to see the Christ consciousness, the beauty within everything, the love within everything, the healing within everything. That's the psychic. To be able to see what is going on a far greater view here, rather than just about the self. But remembering that there's a huge, vast ocean of our own psyche yet to be discovered. Okay, so in regards to our emotions, yes, we may be feeling something. Yes, something may be going on for us, but what's the bigger thing that is happening here? Rather than trying to contain our emotions, allowing them to be free, to show us. You know, we go from the Page on then to the Six of Swords, and there's no coincidence. Even though it's an air card, there's water there, because the Aquarius new moon, yes, it's an air sign, but it's also the water bearer, the water carrier. How well do we hold balance for these emotions within us? Well, when it comes to the sword cards, we have two, and that is where the balance is really needed. We have the Six and the Five of Swords. So in order to move forward, it is about facing this mental conflict, this mental anguish that is actually within us, because that's the difference between calm emotions and rough, choppy, about to come to the surface emotions. We then have one wand card, which is the Page of Wands, and this is almost where I feel a pause. And even though the Page of Wands is a very active fire card, he is pausing. So before we bring in anything new this week in particular, finding what it is that guides us, what light actually guides us, what ambition helps us to want to get up in the morning, to want to continue to see the beauty in the world, to want to live. What is life to us? What is that creative spark to us? Allowing that to make itself known and visible this week. Otherwise, we're going to continue to hold on to old physical things, abilities, needs, judgments, desires, and we can almost become quite a miser type energy. You know, we can feel well, it's definitely almost like a trauma response here, like wanting to go back within. We do have only the one pentacle card. That new beginning actually comes from recognizing there are things that we can hold on to and things that we must let go of. Once we do that, we recognize our place here. Okay, so there are some things that we have no control over, some things that we literally have no control over, and some things that we do. And if we can concentrate on the things that we are here to do, let other people do what they're here to do, then the balance is a lot easier to restore. So one card overall for this week. No, one card. Yeah. So we can say one card, right? We can say that we just want a clear answer, but is there going to be any such thing as that this week? Probably not, but we can say to our own need to understand, actually, I need this limited down. I need to have not to go out on a mental tangent, but to bring that energy back. So one card, yes, by stepping into that more grounded energy of the King of Pentacles, by being more firm in our body and allowing our actions to come from a present state. We then have the World and the Wheel of Fortune, the other side. The Wheel of Fortune isn't just visible yet. The change isn't just visible yet. This week in particular is more about recognizing who we are and standing in that and being firm in that before any changes have space or potential to even come through. Have the most incredible week. Go easy on yourself and start really believing in why you're here in the first place. Take care. I'll see you next week.